Okay, it was last week. I went to Lacerna High School, and they were studying it was a U.S. history class. They were studying the history of Vietnam and about the war. And so what the teacher wanted was just somebody who just was there.
Was just there.
Was just there.
On tour.
Was on tour. Was on tour. That's what it was. It was on tour.
He was on a tour.
Yeah, I was on tour there.
Somebody who went vacation there. Yeah.
And so what she asked me to do was just explain how I got into the Army. And I said, even though we were drafted, we still have to raise our right hand, and we still have to take a step forward and say we will serve and protect the country and the Constitution of the United States. So even though we were drafted, we were still inductees. And so there was no question about that. And I told them I was drafted out of, or inducted out of LA, went to Fort Ord. From Fort Ord, went directly to Vietnam. And I gave some of my stories. I gave some of my, the best one they liked was the teacher I think I embarrassed her. I said, I think I told you guys a story where, Tony, stand up for a minute. Where Tony and I were at Portland, and I asked Tony, I told the kids, because I spoke to 3 classes, so there was 30, 60, about 90 kids. And there was, Lacerna High School has a population like Reynolds, like almost 3,000. They're overcrowded. And so I said, before we get started, I said, does anybody have any questions? And then this one girl was going to raise her hand. I said, I know what your question is. Were you ever scared, or did you ever kill anybody? Right? So I told him like that. I said, were you ever scared? So I always ask Tony, I said, were you ever scared? Tell me, were you ever scared? In Germany?
Shall I say what I said?
Say it.
Remember, this is PBS.
I said, you goddamn right I was scared.
And the teachers usually go, oh. And then I say, Tony, ask me if I was scared.
Were you ever scared?
I go, yeah, I'm going to tell you how scared I was. I said, I'm laughing now, but back then, about 40-some years ago, I wasn't laughing. I said, I told him the story. I said, we had a platoon sergeant, and mine just happened to be a Filipino. He was the Vietnam veteran already, and I was going through Fort Ord in '68, last part of '68, around September. We were finishing up, and we were having like a beer party, like they always have for the graduations, like that kind of deal. And so he says, is there any questions? And I said, yeah, I got a question for you, Sergeant. He said, well, speak up, yell it at me, tell me what your question is. I said, Sergeant, were you ever scared? He goes, no, yell it at me. He said, tell me so I can hear you. Everybody can hear. Sergeant, were you ever scared? And he looks at me and he says, I'm going to tell you guys how scared you're going to be. And everybody goes, oh shit. And so I'm telling the kids the story, and I said, he says, you know what a boxing glove looks like? And he says, you're going to be so scared that your asshole is going to get like a boxing glove, and you won't even be able to fart. That's how scared you're going to be. So all these kids are laughing, and the teacher goes, because I asked her, I said, can I say anything? Because most of them were like juniors or seniors. Some of them are already young adults. And I said, that's not the end of the story. I said, when I was in Vietnam, my first firefight was at night, and the tracer rounds were coming by, and I told the kids, and you know what? My asshole got like that boxing glove. I was so scared, I couldn't even fart, man, but I remembered the sergeant. I remembered his words. I mean, he couldn't help me then, but I remember his words. So we talked about that, and
So that Filipino drill instructor could have been boxing with Manny Pacquiao.
yeah. Actually, he's the kind you see in the movies. He was a tough platoon sergeant, because in his room, he had an x-ray of his skull, and there was still shrapnel that said they couldn't take out, because they would have killed him. So wow. He was a tough Army guy. He would have been good in the Marines, I guess.
He was as tough as Parras?
Yeah, but he was, our group, I kind of spoke a little bit, I explained the medals to the class, and then I told them it's one of the choices. You can either go to college, community college, trade school, or you can join the military. And with the military, spend a couple of years, 2-4 years in the military, and then they give you educational benefits that they take out of your paycheck. And so you can either go to college right out of high school or right after you do the military. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just all volunteer Army, but it's a good choice. It doesn't have to be just Army and Marines. You can be Navy or Air Force. And so you get all these choices. So the class really enjoyed my stories. I think the teacher was a little embarrassed. And then the last one I told was they had this map of Vietnam. I think I told you about it. Had this map about Vietnam. And I said, here's Saigon. And I told them I had gone to the VA in Long Beach, and they asked me where I was, and I told them I was in the Mekong Delta. I don't know if they ever told you this, but they told me we didn't have any troops there. And I go, what do you mean you didn't have any troops there? I was with the 9th Infantry Division. We were in the Mekong Delta, and we were near Cambodia. Oh, the minute I said Cambodia, I said, no, we didn't have anybody there. And I was telling the kids that. I said, then later on, about 5 years later, they said, oh yeah, we did have troops there. We did have troops there. But you see, it's like Richard says, some of the kids are interested, some of them aren't. But most of them were because they were studying Vietnam, so it made it easy for me to come in there and talk to them as a regular soldier that was there. You know, there wasn't a general or commander-in-chief of anything at all, but I was just a regular soldier, foot soldier that just had to walk his way through the country, right? You just had to walk it. Just walk it. And
Before we started, we got permission. I said, well, if you want us to really bring it out how it was, he said, okay, then we're going to have to talk. Sometimes we have to use the language that we use there. And they looked at each other, well, go ahead, we'll see how it worked. And they liked it, you know. We said, look, we said what you made us. They made us feel at home, and we didn't care. And they liked what we said, and we was real frank about it, you know. And when we went to class, I don't know, you know, before we got there, they were packed. They were waiting to hear because what the other students heard from us, you know. And they were already asking questions. And I don't know because when we was up there in Portland, is what we're talking about, the Indians, they were there and they were doing their thing. They found out what they were doing and they finished it in a rush. And when we got there, they were in the office. Now, what are you guys doing here? Well, we want to hear and see if you repeat it. And he had our little story down pat. He just said the same thing and went to the other, said the same thing. So, the guy who was in charge of Ken, yeah, at the end of the day, he says, you know, he says, every year that we're here, the Indians take over. But this is the first year, man, you guys came in here and you was just like a storm. All they want to do is hear about you guys, you know. It says, I want to make sure you guys come back because this is going on and already the other schools heard and they want to, and we can only make so many schools this time. So we got a good reception, and every time we've gone over there, we got a good reception. They just, and then we meet some of the, they were just juniors, you know what I mean? They meet and they're asking, they're asking, hey, tell us about this, tell us about that. And I look at him and I said, man, they want to know, so we just keep on saying the same stories. And they're very good. We try to make some funny ones also.
What's that?
Do they write back to you guys?
The students actually, this is a funny story. We were coming back on the plane, right? And then Francisco has this folder full of letters from the school kids, right? So everybody got a letter except Francisco. Nobody thanked him for anything.
We still love him.
And so, because we all said, you know, Tony and I, we get about 4 or 5 letters apiece, and then I go, Francisco, where's yours? probably got lost. You didn't get anything at all, man. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry.
I changed the name on all of mine, and I put you guys' names.
I think we still have some still have some in storage right there.
Yeah,
Because
because
Frank got some, I got some, Tony.
yeah, because when Frank goes over here to the high schools, the students, they always write,
Oh, yeah?
write him letters, send them,
Yeah.
give them to
Yeah, a
them.
lot of them are really grateful.
Real nice.
But it's fun. It's fun in a way.
So thank you for sharing, Antonio and Ralph, our vice commander. Gracias.